and welcome you to the 5th Colonel Carson E.R. Holman Leadership Lecture. Colonel Carson Holman was the great-nephew of Carson Long's founder, Colonel Theodore K. Long. He's a 1948 graduate of this academy. Colonel Holman retired from Carson Long in 2007. This lecture series is dedicated in his memory and honour. Our guest speaker today is Colonel Paul Culberson. Lieutenant Colonel Culberson was commissioned a second lieutenant in the Corps of Engineers through ROTC from the New Mexico Military Institute in 1996. He started his career with the 40th Engineer Battalion, 2nd Brigade Combat Team, 1st Armoured Division at Baumholder, Germany, where he served as platoon leader, company executive officer, and assistant brigade engineer. From 2003 to 2004, Colonel Culberson served as the division engineer for the 101st Airborne Division with service in Iraq. He later served from 2004 to 2006 as the company commander for headquarters and headquarters company, 3rd Brigade Combat Team, 101st Airborne Division, with again service in Iraq. From 2006 to 2007, and again from 2008 to 2009, he served as the operations officer for the Australian 3rd Combat Engineer Regiment, 3rd Brigade, 1st Division. From 2007 to 2008, he served as the Task Force Lead Planner for the Australian Reconstruction Task Force 3 in Afghanistan. 2010-2012, Colonel Culberson served as the Operations Officer and Executive Officer the 425th Brigade, Special Troops Battalion, Airborne, 4th Airborne Brigade Combat Team, 25th Infantry Division, with service in Afghanistan. 2012 to 13, Secretary of the General Staff for the US Army in Alaska. In July 2013, he assumed duties of Professor of Military Science at Dickinson College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and has been selected and will assume command of the 7th Engineer Battalion, 1st Brigade Combat Team, 10th Mountain Division at Fort Drum, New York in May 2015. Lieutenant Colonel Culberson holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Petroleum Engineering from Louisiana State University and NN College. Masters of Science degree in Geological Engineering from Missouri University of Science and Technology, and is a graduate of Army Intermediate Level Education. Awards and decorations earned by Lieutenant Colonel Culberson include a Bronze Star with 2 oak leaf clusters, Meritorious Service Medal with 2 oak leaf clusters, NATO Medal, and the De Fleury Medal. He has also earned the Basic Parachute Badge, Air Assault Badge, Ranger Tab, and Canadian Jump Wings. Colonel Culberson is married to former Daniel Marin Lilly, and together they have 3 children, Hunter, 11, Brock, 7, and Isabella, 3. It is my honour, and on your behalf, to welcome Colonel Culberson to Carson Long to the Academy again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that warm introduction. I want to see a show of hands in here. I know this is a military college or a military high school. How many of you are actually looking to go in the military? So quite a few. The reason I say that is I'm going to talk about leadership today, if that's all right. Talk to you a little bit about leadership. I think everybody wants to know. I'm going to talk probably about 75% military leadership and how you can employ it in the military. But I think additionally, you can take the principles I'm going to tell you today and apply them in the civilian world, okay? But I'm going to use some vignettes from the military to kind of demonstrate those leadership principles, if you will, okay? So what is leadership? You know, if you look at the Army FM about Army leadership, it's talking about providing purpose, direction, motivation. You guys have all heard this, right? You know, Colonel Butler's talked to you. 2, 3, 4. Purpose, direction, motivation to accomplish a mission. All right. I mean, that's what we're talking about. Regardless of whether you're in the military or not, leadership is extremely important. The question you've got to ask yourself is, do you want people to obey your orders obey their supervisor, because that's what we do in the military, right? If my boss tells me I need to do something, I'm going to obey that because that's what we're brought up to do. That's called discipline. All right, whether I agree with that individual or not, the orders are moral, ethical, doesn't cross the barrier of being illegal. I've got to follow that order. Or do you want people to follow? Do you want to be a leader that people follow, or do you want to be somebody they obey because they have to? That's the question you got to ask yourself, because you've all seen them, I'm sure, right? In your short time frame, being on this earth, you've seen those leaders that you wouldn't follow to the latrine, all right? Or you've seen the guys who follow the hell and back because of the way they made you feel, the motivation they imparted on you. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today, okay? So I want to talk about the foundations of leadership. There's two things I think that are a foundation of all leadership: military or civilian. Okay? We're going to use the adult learning model here. You guys like PowerPoint? I've got PowerPoint I can throw up here if you want. You get a PowerPoint a lot or not? Do you get PowerPoint in your classes here? Yeah. All right, we're not going to use PowerPoint. All right, foundations. Integrity and vision. Okay. What do I mean by integrity? Go ahead.
Being honest, doing things when doing the right thing, nobody's looking.
That's right. Having a strong moral foundation. You guys mind if I take this off the way? All right? A strong moral convictions. All right? Having integrity means that what you do in privacy of your home is the same thing that you do when you're out amongst your peers. Right? You don't change. Having strong morals. You guys all take a look behind you. The Army, we use something, and Carson Long uses something here, we call the Army values. Leadership. And Colonel Butler and I were talking about this when they started coming up with the Army values of leadership to make it easier for everybody to understand. Actually, it's leadership, believe it or not. The P, personal courage, was originally they wanted to make it courage. Just didn't go together. So they made it personal courage, all right, to make it easier to understand. All right, so that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about integrity. And back in the 90s in the military, we had some issues with, we had some integrity issues, some moral challenges for some of our leaders, all right? Back in the early 90s, we had something called operational readiness rate, and your vehicles had to be 90% ready to roll out the gate, all right? 90%. And what that meant was, if you didn't have 90%, then shame on you, it was bad on you, it looked poorly upon you as a leader, as a lieutenant, as a captain, whatever you were commanding, okay? So that operational readiness rate, what people were doing is they were saying, hey, I got a vehicle in services, meaning that once a year you take a vehicle, you take the engine out of the vehicle, you put it on the ground, the tires are off, but guess what? The tires are inflated, the engine, I know it works, it just came out of the vehicle's sitting right there, it's good to go. Well, we all knew that wasn't necessarily the case. So people were being challenged with their integrity because they didn't want the chain of command to look poorly upon them or their organization. You guys understand what I'm saying? All right? And that's a true story. So what's the best way to determine how many vehicles are operational? Tell everybody to load up, move out of the motor pool in 2 hours. It's the best way. All right? Then you'll know how many vehicles are actually operational and what that integrity, or what their integrity is as a leader, right? The second one, vision. You might say, well, vision, that's for President Pearson and Carson Long. That's not for me. If I'm in a platoon, I don't have vision. Well, I would argue that you do. In every organization, whether it be the military or civilian, you, as a leader, you should have a vision. Every organization is going somewhere. It's either muddling along, it's staying still, it's going backwards, it's going somewhere. The key for you as a leader is determining where you want your organization to go and communicating it to this cadet Wood right here, or to all of you. You understand? That's the hard part. Communicating your vision to whoever it is in your organization. All right? Regardless of whether you're managing 3 people, 4 people, or 5,000 people. If you're a division commander, you got 10,000 people. They have a vision, but I would argue at the lowest level, the team level, at your team level, you should know where your organization is going, where you want them to go, and then head them off in that direction. In that regard, I want to talk about a lion tamer. You guys know a lion tamer, right? From circus? You ever been to circus? Raise your hand if you've been to circus. All right. So in the circus, a lion tamer goes into the cage with what? Chair and a whip. Thank you. So this man's been in the circus. Okay. Why doesn't he go in with a spear? No, you're not going to kill the lion. But why does he go in to tame the lion with a spear? Help him out.
Because a spear is smaller than a chair.
Okay.
Smaller like area.
The lion is a point predator. All right? It's a point predator. So the chair, what does he do? He turns it around. And it's got four legs. You go in with a spear, what does the lion do? Bats the spear away, eats the lion tamer. All right? You go in with a chair, and now you've got 4 points that are equidistant, and the lion cannot tell which is the greater threat. So what does the lion do? It backs up, and it sits on its hind legs. Lion tamer backs out, closes the door. He knows he didn't just tame the lion, but everybody else thinks he did. So what just happened? He confused the lion. You can have the same effect on an organization. All right? When I say vision, the easiest way to articulate your vision is to talk about priorities. All right? If you're not able to articulate your priorities, where everything's a priority, that means nothing is. If you can't articulate your vision to your organization, well, then they're going to sit down too. They're going to be just like that lion, and they're going to be confused. All right? Let me clean this up real quick. All right. I'm going to use a quad chart or a 2x2 matrix. You know, every leadership lecture, you've got to have a quad chart. All right. The way I'm going to do this, I'm going to put two things up here. All right. So over here, we're going to say this is a positive, this is a negative. Good, bad. And I have something over here. This is going to be bad. This is going to be good. Okay. So if you're looking over here, you're going to have a bad and a good up here. Good, 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 bad. All right? That's where you want to be. Where you don't want to be is here. Okay? Tracking? Okay. So what I'm talking about first is competence. A leader with competence. And a leader character. If you're down here, low in competence means you don't know what you're doing. Low in character, I don't know who wants that individual in your organization. Nobody's going to follow them, that's for sure. All right, competence, what does that mean? That means being good at your job. All right? Knowing your job and studying it. Lifelong learners. Talk about lifelong learning? Lifelong learning. Lieutenant Colonel, United States Army, about to head up Fort Drum, take command. I have 3 books on my desk at all times. 3 different books. I'm always trying to get better. The day you stop learning is the day you become irrelevant. And you just need to go off and sit on the porch. All right? The day you stop learning is the day you become irrelevant. I'll tell you that. You have to study your profession. Competence isn't going to get you everywhere. Right? It's not going to get you everywhere because you can be as competent at doing whatever it is you do. I'm an engineer, so the defenses of what we do. We in-place obstacles, we dig vehicle fighting positions. That's just what we do, right? If I don't know the proper standard for employing those systems, i.e. putting in a minefield, putting in a tank ditch, digging in an M1 tank or M2 Bradley, well, there's a problem. I have a competence issue, all right? The second thing is character. And I don't mean are you a character, all right? I mean, do you have character? That's what I'm talking about. Specifically, what are your values? What do you value? Hopefully, you kind of look at the Army values and you kind of take those to heart, hopefully, because they're pretty good values, right? And we all agree that the leadership, the values that we have in the Army and here at Carson, they're pretty good values. Could you identify a few more personally? Absolutely. All right. But as a standard, the leadership values that we have in the Army here at Carson are pretty good. All right. So what do you value? And character is what you're doing behind closed doors as well, right? There's 3 personas to somebody's character, right? 3 personas. You got the persona that you see here, Lieutenant Colonel Culberson standing in front of you. And then you got the persona where I'm back at home, I'm with my family, or I'm with my very close friends, right? That's a different side of Lieutenant Colonel Culberson. That's the Paul Culberson that I let my closest friends see. And then there's a 3rd persona, which is the one you keep hidden from even your closest friends. All right? The hard part is, how do you try and make all 3 of those match? How do you make all 3 of those match where the person I am standing right here is the same person I am with my family, I have the same values, and the same person I don't show anybody that I hold dear and very close to myself, okay? So let's talk about this. Somewhere where it was extremely confident, bad character. Battle of the Bulge, 1944 in December, all right? Colonel Piper. Colonel Piper was arguably the best Panzer commander on the Western Front, all right? Spearheaded the Battle of the Bulge, SS Panther. What did he do? He goes, no, all right? What does he do? He goes forward and takes, you guys have heard the Malmedy Massacre? Anybody ever heard of Malmedy Massacre? Okay. Over the course of a few days, they went through and they just didn't have any room, had no room for prisoners. So what did they do? They killed massacred roughly 360 military personnel and over 100 civilians in that process, okay? Highly competent individual, bad character. And a number of things happened after that because of that. But I think at Malmedy it was about 84 that actually perished that day, but over the course of a few days they killed over 300 military and over 300 Americans and over 100 civilians in that area, okay? You guys understand? You can't just be confident. You've got to match that with good character, all right? All right. Initiative, proactivity. What is initiative? Initiative is seeing a problem. Nobody has to tell you there's a problem. You identify a problem, and then you take action to fix it. All right? I would argue at the lowest level of leadership, that's what we want. That's what we want. We want you to take the initiative. When you see a problem, you see a piece of trash, you take the initiative, you've got a problem, you pick it up and you throw it away. You make the organization better. Lowest level of leadership. What do you expect from our higher level of leadership? How do you separate yourself apart from your peers? Proactivity. Proactivity. I'm an engineer. So what does it mean to be proactive? It means I am place a defense. And I'm working with my maneuver, my infantry brethren. All right? We in place a defense. I'm being proactive and I say, what if? That's the guys that say, what if? What if the enemy doesn't come here, the enemy comes to our flank? And then you identify a plan, working with your maneuver brethren, of what you do to counter that, all right? And how do you do that? If I'm proactive, I probably put a scout out forward to determine where the enemy is going to go, right? And then I can counter whatever the enemy is going to do. That's being proactive, all right? And that's what we expect out of our higher level leaders. First into the Army, junior leadership, if you've got initiative, your commander's going to love you. If you're proactive, in addition to that, it's somebody that can see forward. If you're proactive, we're really going to love you. You are definitely going to set yourself apart from your peers. All right? The individuals that are low here, that are proactive, bad initiative, that's your Monday morning quarterbacks, right? That's the guy who's like, oh, I saw that coming. Oh, really? What'd you do? Oh, I didn't do anything about it. I didn't do anything. Monday morning quarterbacks. Oh, anybody could have seen that. A fool could have seen that coming. Oh, yeah? Did you take any steps? Oh, that's not my job. Okay, all right. You see the difference? You see the leadership there? You can't just be good in one of these areas. All right? This is where you want to be. Down here and down here, that's what we consider a blind spots, right? That's a blind spot for that specific leader. All right. This is a good one. Aggressiveness. Collegiality. What is aggressiveness? Aggressiveness, wanting and demanding the best from your organization and doing anything to make it happen. All right, that's what you want to do, right? Whoever's a platoon leader out here, you see that your platoon is not getting fed appropriately. What are you going to do? You're going to go back and talk to the cooks like, hey, where's my sandwiches? My guys, being aggressive. Now, how do you match that with being collegial? Collegial, being a nice guy, right? Being nice, being a good team player. You can be highly aggressive, not be collegial. You go in and say, hey, I demand you give my guys proper food. What did you just do? You just burnt every bridge behind you. And the cook over here may say, absolutely not. You can't have this. You go, let me see your boss. Oh yeah, let me show you. Let me see your boss. What? No, let me see your boss. You can get anything once. I would argue you can get anything once. But at the end of the day, it's all those bridges you burn. When your unit, when your organization comes behind you to try and follow the same path you took, you're not going to be able to because you burn all those bridges. So in the military, on military installations, we have an organization called Task C. It's where units go to get training support. They get training aids. And it's usually run by senior NCOs that are retired, and they just love to eat up new second lieutenants. They love it. They love to see a lieutenant come in and ask for training aids. And generally speaking, what happens when there's a new lieutenant comes in? Well, I'm Lieutenant Culberson. I demand that you give me these training aids. And no, I didn't follow the proper procedures in order 3 months in advance, like it says in the standard operating procedure, but I need them tomorrow. And you're going to make it happen because I've got to train. You want me to tell your boss you're not going to allow me to train? I'll call my boss. Burn every bridge. Those senior NCOs that are retired, they love to see lieutenants come in and not forecast the proper training needs. All right? It is okay to be aggressive. Nobody's arguing that you should not be aggressive. But you've got to match that with being a team player. Okay? All right, this goes to how do you develop people? All right? How do you develop people as a leader? Development of individuals. Development of teams. Okay, let's take basketball. Who plays basketball here? Where do they start at? There he is. Okay. What do they teach you first in basketball? You come in, I'm a new guy, I don't know how to play basketball. What do we teach you first? Fundamentals. Basic dribbling, passing, shooting, individual responsibility, right? If you don't know the basic fundamentals, thank you. I didn't even put him in the audience. If you don't know the basic fundamentals, you can't start building on that, developing teams, right? If I take, because I played basketball 30 seconds when I was in high school, all right? Realized that was not going to be the next Shaquille O'Neal, because I went to LSU, so I Shaquille O'Neal, all right? So if I take a bunch of me, I take 5 of me and I throw them out there, and immediately I start trying to do what? What kind of drills you do as a team? Passing drills, pick and rolls. If I start doing that and they don't understand the basics of basketball, they're just going to flounder, all right? So the key thing here is, how do you balance the development of an individual to make sure that, is it Jing? Cadet Jing gets to the schooling that he needs to develop him as an individual, bring him back as a team, all right? And then move that team forward to accomplish a specific mission. How do you do that? Because I would argue, you could develop individuals. I've seen organizations that did really well at developing individuals, horrible at developing teams. Specifically, organizations in the Army that, or you've probably seen it as well, where the leader is the hub, like hub and spoke, right? Everything comes out from the leader. Individuals know what they're doing, but there's no team. Hey, boss, I accomplished that. What else you want me to do? Hey, boss, I accomplished that. What else you want me to do? That everything permeates from that leader. And what happens? So back in '90, first Gulf War, they had an engineer company. It was one of these, all right? Great at individual tasks. Individual development, spot on. Developing teams, not so much. So what happens in 1990? Engineer company commander and about 4 other leaders within the company go out. They get blown up. Company commander dies. Now this is, first Gulf War didn't last long. But he goes out and he gets blown up and he passes away. All right, he dies in combat. The whole organization sat on its heels, didn't know what to do. Because he didn't develop teams. All right. Didn't develop his teams. You've got to balance your individual development with your developing teams. So let's use engineering for a minute. If you're an engineer in the Army, you're going to have some soldier that's out there throwing a grappling hook, and then somebody's going to come behind him and they're going to breach a lane. So my individual skill is I'm going to throw the grappling hook and make sure there's no tripwires. All right. And then behind me, I've got a team that's going to come through and breach that obstacle. And behind that, I'm going to have a team come by and it's going to proof that obstacle. But everybody has an individual task that you train as a team. But you've got to train those individual tasks first before you can bring that team together for the collective mission. Does that make sense? All right. Just think about geese. All right, you guys know about geese, right? A flock of geese when they fly. Anybody know what the ratio for a flock of geese is when they fly in formation as opposed to when they're flying individually, roughly? What? Yeah, they're doing the flying V. Geese in a formation are 71% more efficient than they are when they fly individually. 71%. Why do I tell you that? You need to develop your teams. All right. Risk management can do. What do I mean by risk management? Risk management is being able to identify a risk and putting in place mitigation measures so you can still accomplish the mission. All right? Can-do attitude, you guys know what I'm talking about here, right? What? Boss, you can do that? Absolutely. My unit can do it. We can do it. What? You can do that? Absolutely. We can do it. Now, where does this become an issue? Those individuals that are always like, yes, absolutely, I can do it, my unit can do it, but don't balance the risk. You guys heard of a little big one? Custer, I would argue, can do, nobody better, all right? This guy, I don't know how many, anybody in their 20s? You're all in high school, right? You're all in high school. Nobody's in their 20s. Sergeant over here is in his 20s, all right? You guys know how old General Custer was when he died? And what rank he was? What? 24. Major General. 24 years old. Okay? I'm 25, so I'm not there yet, but one day. So I would argue can-do attitude, he definitely had it, right? Absolutely had it. Risk management, not so much. Killed a couple thousand of them, all right? But he was on it. So as a leader, you have to ensure that you balance the risk. You take a look at what the mission is and what the opportunity costs are as well. All right. That's what we're looking for. In addition to that, you don't want to be over here with the attitude of, that's not my job, I can't do that, because what happens is your boss's boss will never look to you to do anything. You guys have heard the old adage, if you want something done, give it to the busiest man? Because you know that individual's going to get it done. He's got a stack of papers this high. It's like, hey, I need you to do this because he's a can-do guy. I'm going to get it done every single time. And you know he will because you can trust him. You can't be the individual that's over here that has the Mexican. You guys know what I'm talking about? Can't do it for whatever reason. And you can't be risk adverse either. You guys know what I'm talking about, risk adverse? Where everything is such a high risk that you can't do it. No, too risky. I don't want to do that. Can't do it. All right? You got to be able to balance the two. And the last one, specifically about balance. The work ethic.
And balance.
Too young to know this, because I'm sure some people, you guys ever heard of the last vehicle in parking lot mentality? Where if I'm the last vehicle, obviously I'm getting a lot of work done, right? Everybody sees my vehicle in the parking lot. Do not, I say again, do not make the mistake of thinking that working a lot is the same as getting a lot done. It is not the same. I would argue that if you work until 9 o'clock in anything, you're probably not very efficient, all right? You're probably not very efficient. Strong work ethic. Get the job done. Match that with your can-do attitude. Your boss is going to love you, all right? If you have a very low work ethic and you're unable to balance your life, your family life, your after hours, whatever it is you're doing, I don't know anybody that's going to look for your hiring, all right? That balance piece, the balance is, how do I balance my current job, whatever it is you're doing, all right? Not only raise your hand going to the military. How do I balance what I'm doing at work with my family life? It's tough. Those of you that are going to the military, it's extremely tough because there's going to be times where the Army or the Air Force or the Navy or Marines are going to ask you to do a 96-hour EDRE, all right? You're going to go to Fort Polk, Louisiana for a JRTC rotation, all right? And you're going to be gone from your family for a month, and you're going to come back, and you're going to have to clean all the equipment and do everything else. How do you balance all that with the wife and the kids, or the girlfriend, or the family that hasn't seen you since two months ago? They want to see you, right? It's extremely difficult. But you've got to figure out how you balance your life, your work life. And I will tell you, any way to do it is to look at how effective you are at whatever job you're doing. How effective you are. If you're spending your time on Facebook, or you're out taking smoke breaks every hour, I would argue you're probably not as effective as you could be. There's ways to get after that kind of stuff, all right? All right, the last thing I'm going to put up here, and then we'll go to questions. You guys look like you're droning on me here. Sitting here and listening to me lecture, keep you guys getting tired. All right? I need to move this time because I think it's important. Excellence. You got to strive for excellence in everything you do. All right? Everything that you do on the basketball court. If you're wrestling, you're out there wrestling, all right? I mean, give 100% in your studies. What you're doing right now, if you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, is extremely important for what you do after high school. Strive for excellence in every single thing you do. And when I say it's extremely important, I mean what you do in your freshman, sophomore year of high school is going to be reflective of you when you're trying to go to college, right? Somebody like me is going to look at you on an admission staff or in a job and say, how did you do in school? It's almost like the stock market, right? You know, past performance is not necessarily a prediction of future returns, okay? But it's a good indicator. I would argue it's a good indicator. If you're not putting forth the effort now, the likelihood of you putting forth that effort at the job or in college is going to be extremely low. All right? So everything you do, every single day, you should strive for excellence. In your organizations, generally speaking, about 25% of the organization carry that organization. They pretty much do everything. You as a leader, if you're able to motivate that organization to get 50 or 75% to now start carrying the organization, imagine what you can do. Imagine. Ted Williams, in one of his final days, he's going up against a rookie pitcher. Ted Williams gets up there, everybody's clapping, almost like Derek Jeter on his final game, He goes up there and the pitcher throws 4 heaters. Ted Williams threw down his bat, runs to first base. That pitcher comes running down to the plate, arguing with the umpire. You didn't call those strikes because that's Ted Williams, and this is baseball, and everything should be fair here. And he goes, sir, if those were strikes, Mr. Williams would have swung at them. All right, what does that mean? Ted Williams, everything in his life, he strived for excellence. All right, you got to do the same thing. I'm going to open it up for questions now. I think we've got a few minutes, sir. That's all right. Anybody have any questions for me about anything? The Army, ROTC? Yes, sir.
Why is it that the military wants you to have a 4-year degree in order to become an officer?
Well, we think it's extremely important. The education you get out of college and the leader development that you get in ROTC or West Point is what we need. We expect our leaders, specifically the officers, to have that leadership development, all right? Be able to be developed as a leader. So when you come in, let's assume Cadet Jing is enlisted underneath me. There's an expectation of him, his family, and the American people that he has the best leader possible, the most educated leader possible, all right? There's an expectation, right? Do you want Cadet North, lead Cadet Jing? I'm not saying he's not a good leader, but it's the model we use to do leader development. So 4 years ROTC, 4 years at West Point. We also have OCS, Officer Candidate School, where you can come in when you're enlisted, transfer over to the officer side. But that's after a few years of being in the Army where you gain that leadership experience. All right? Education is extremely important. Not just college, though. You got to carry that lifelong learning, even when you're out of college. I hope all of you are looking to go to college, but even after college, you got to continue that education, regardless of whether you're an officer in the military or whatever. And I would say, I've got a master's degree right now, but I was looking to go back and get my MBA. The first question they asked, what was that? My MBA? Master of Business Administration. Yeah. No, not Major League Basketball. Or what is it? What's that? NBA. Sorry. Yeah, no way I'm going to the NBA. I told you I can't dribble. All right. I was going back to get my MBA. What'd they ask me? What's the first thing they asked me? What's your undergraduate GPA? I'm like, man, I went to school like 15 years ago. Yeah, I know. I need to see your transcripts. Thanks a lot. All right. Past performance. All right. Indicative of future performance. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question?
Yes.
What else? What other question do you have? Yes, sir.
The Army's changing. The skills needed, the nature of the Army, and the requirements of individuals, the technology, the sequestration and reduction in numbers. How is that affecting what the Army are looking for? Because I look around and people put their hands up. They're looking for certain things. You're at Dickinson College now as a professor, military studies. You're seeing young men at college. You've been here before. What is it that they are actually looking for?
Right now, that's a fantastic question. So right now, we're looking for leaders of character. Specifically the officers. But every soldier has to have character, right? I mean, you can't just come in there and have low morals, low values. But the individuals that are coming into the military now, that are enlisting and becoming officers, are top 25% amongst their peers. I mean, they are phenomenal. They're guys like you sitting in here, all right, that are looking to join the military. They do well in school. They are athletic. You got to be athletic to be in the military no matter what you're doing, right? I mean, you've seen some of the hills in the movies of, for Afghanistan and whatnot, Strepo, all those other things, right? I'm sure some of you have seen those. Right? There's a lot of hills. You got to be physically fit. So we call them scholar athlete leaders. If you want to go into RTC, they're looking for scholar athlete leaders. Individuals that are intelligent, do well in their studies, athletes that are physically fit, and 99% of you here are physically fit, except for the basketball team over here. And then leaders. All right? And that's the most important thing. We want America's sons and daughters to be led by the best and brightest. All right? So when I tell you, what you do your freshman, sophomore, junior year is extremely important, because your senior year, quite frankly, it's irrelevant at the time you're trying to get in college. It's irrelevant because you're going to go in, you're going to interview at a college, you're going to interview for the Army. They're going to look at what your GPA is for your freshman, sophomore, and junior year, and you haven't even received your senior year events yet. You don't get credit for something you haven't done yet. I can't give you credit for being on the varsity football team or the varsity basketball team if you haven't actually done it and you haven't lettered. So if you're on the varsity team your junior year, we're going to give you credit for that. You see what I'm saying? Right? You can just show up, do your interview, and walk out and go, I'm done playing basketball. Just to get in. So it's extremely important what you do your freshman, sophomore, and junior year, more so than probably your senior year, where you're just finishing up. But back to your question, sir, about sequestration. So the Army is downsizing. All of the services are downsizing, guys. The National Guard, the Army Reserves, the Army, Air Force, where everybody's downsizing because of sequestration. Sequestration is Congress taking essentially 10% of our budget right at the top, right? Across the board cuts. So what does that mean? That means the Army's downsizing somewhat. So we're about 506,000 right now. By the end of 2017, we'll be at 570,000. I'm sorry, 470,000. By the end of 2019, if we continue down this path, it'll be about 420. 420. All right? That's the smallest number that's been in the Army since before World War II. Right? Now take this into perspective, all right? So during World War II, anybody have any idea how many people served in the military? How many? Very close. Yeah, most people don't know. It's about 12 million, a little over 12 million actually served in uniform. All right? That means, and there were 100 million people in the United States. All right? So 12% of the population, you know what that meant? I mean, every family had skin in the game. Now, we've got a population of over 300 million. What percentage of the population actually served in uniform? Anybody know? It's less than 0.5%. Less than 0.5%. So those who raise your hand, I applaud you, because not a lot of people are doing it. Right? Not a lot of people are signing up to do what we do. But it's highly competitive right now. Regardless of whether you're going to enlist in the Army or you're going to become an officer, it's extremely competitive. Extremely competitive. Take a look around. I mean, you know, right? You look at your peers. If you're not on par with your peers, some of the stuff I talked about, you'll probably need to up your game. Being proactive, being aggressive. Maybe you got some character flaws you need to work on. All right? If you be honest with yourself, if you're not up to par with your peers, you probably need to up your game if you're looking at joining the military. No, any organization. I mean, I don't know anybody that wants to hire somebody that's not at the top of their game. Third answer to your question.
Yes, indeed.
What else? Yes, sir.
Can you give, I'm a guy that's sitting out here as a freshman or sophomore, and I'm looking to go into ROTC. You told me good grades. I teach guys about goal setting, and I see guys who teach this. So give them an idea of what we mean by good.
Okay.
What does a top flight candidate for ROTC or top flight candidate for soldier look like on a piece of paper that you see and say, yeah, we're going to offer that boy a scholarship?
So the average individual, the average student that gets a scholarship from ROTC now, I can't tell you about 5 years ago, I wasn't here, but I can tell you 5 years ago, pretty much they're giving out a lot of money to beef up the numbers to get to, I think we were like 570,000. Now we're dropping down to 470. Okay, so a top-notch candidate for ROTC today, somebody that's got about a 3.5 GPA or higher, somebody that does athletics and has a varsity letter in 2 or more sports, potentially does volunteer work, all right? Leaders in activities, whether it be the French Club, the National Honor Society, student government, student council, something, being a leader. So you're demonstrating scholar athlete leader, right? High grades, athletic. That doesn't mean you have to letter in varsity sport. You can do other things as well. Are you somebody that likes to run on the weekends and you run 5Ks and 10Ks? Do you mountain bike? Just, are you active? Can you handle the strain that the military puts on you? I mean, that's the question. I don't want to break people. And then if you've got to be fit to be a leader. And then that leadership ability. And when I say leadership, I'm talking about being president or vice president, being selected to some type of or a nominative position in a club or activity, or you in the Cub Scouts, sometimes not Cub Scouts, the Boy Scouts. Did you make an Eagle Scout? Or in the Billy Mitchell Club? So a top-notch candidate is high scholastically, high GPA 3.5 or above, and your SATs and ACTs matter, gentlemen. All right? If I look at somebody, and I'm going to be completely honest with you, if I look at somebody and they got a 2.5 GPA and their ACT scores at 19, all right, they're probably not going to make it. They're probably not going to get selected for a 3 or 4 year scholarship at the national level. That doesn't mean they can't go to college and potentially get a scholarship on campus, because we're looking for good leaders, all right? Just because you have a 19 on the ACT and you have 2.5 GPA in high school does not mean you can't be an ROTC. What it means, though, is you probably will not get selected for a national scholarship. You could go to LSU, do well, work hard, strong work ethic, and a professor of military science can recommend you for a campus-based scholarship from that. Okay, so it's not, don't think that if I don't get a national scholarship at the end of the road for me, I'm never going to amount to anything ROTC-wise, because that is not the case. We give out a number of scholarships at our campus just for students that show up, demonstrate a strong work ethic, demonstrate leadership potential, and nominate for scholarships. Anybody know how much tickets to college cost? Anybody know? It's ridiculous. It's like room and board $60,000 a year. All right? It's extremely expensive. It's a phenomenal school, but it's expensive. I mean, the average person like myself, so a scholarship would be good. What else? Any other questions? Yes, sir. Nothing. All right, good.
What positions in the military right now are there high demand for, like, from the military, like, for recruits to go into?
You talking enlistment side?
Enlisted and officer.
Officer, every branch, right? We've got a certain amount of officers that we have to assess into a specific branch every year. So there's not a specific high demand for a specific branch. What we are looking for, and if you want to up your game, all right, and set yourself apart from your peers, are STEM. You guys know what I'm talking about? STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. All right. If you go in as a STEM major, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, write that down, you're going to set yourself apart. All right. If you just took, Culberson, who's not a STEM, I'm a kinesiology major, and you took Wood over here and he's a STEM, automatically he would be higher on the order of merit list, just because that's what we're looking for in the military. All right. And being a STEM, you don't have to be mathematically inclined to be STEM, because science is not all about mathematics, right? It's good. Enlisted side, I don't know. I don't want to lie to you. donut. Because we're downsizing, I don't know if we're hurting across the board. I think we're more in trouble at our NCO ranks than we are at our junior enlisted ranks. You understand? Sorry.
They're looking for linguists a lot now,
There you
they
go.
aren't per se guys that speak two or more languages or can, relate to different because of the Afghanistan, Iraq, now Iraq's eating that. And they're looking for people who speak Arabic, who have national relations experience dealing with the people that are over there. They're looking for guys that come into that particular MOS is like that.
And the other one I would add to that is cyber as well.
Yes, sir.
You guys, I'm sure all of you know what you're doing on a computer better than I do. But if you can hack into stuff right now, you're probably going to be all right in the military. Like, they'll probably take you. Just don't hack into Sony. Don't hack into Sony. Really, they got an issue. Any other questions? No? Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Athleticism, leadership. And if you're lost, look behind you. Look at the Army values. You've heard some great advice from Colonel Culberson this morning. I say we're very honoured to have him share his experiences and his insights into Army leadership and values which will allow you to navigate a complex, volatile, uncertain and ambiguous world. Take these pieces of wisdom to heart. They will help you. I think that deserves a little round of applause. Never give up.